TIF effects on police and fire services. Welcome to episode 11 of Write-In McMasters for Mayor. Why Mayor Gore's half-truths matter. In this episode, we will talk about Mayor Gore telling everybody that TIF money can't be used for police and fire. But this year, that is a $600,000 misrepresentation. It matters because Carriage Trail 2 decisions are being made, and we want to make sure that we're going to make those decisions correctly. So the half-truth, right? Mayor Gore will tell you that TIF money cannot be used to fund police and fire services. And it is true that once property taxes are diverted into a TIF, those funds are expected to be spent on infrastructure. So that part is true. But here's the rest of the truth. What the mayor doesn't tell you is that this year the city would collect $600,000 more for police and fire if Carriage Trails wasn't in a TIF, right? He's always telling you that it's only 6 cents on the dollar. We're only taking 6 cents out of the dollar out of your property tax. So what does that look like? Well, this is a breakdown of your property taxes over here. And if you take the city's portion, and I'll pull that out in a second, it's 6%. One thing that I have to say is a friend of the city, Paul Schaefer, doesn't like that some of this 19% and some of this 5% and some of this 3% also goes into the TIF because he wouldn't trade any of the human services or the county's ability to pay judges for infrastructure. So I have to say that too. I make those trades, and I'll tell you why later. But some people won't make those trades, and I can see that argument as well. But this is you can see here that the levies that go into the 6% that we get are levies that are dedicated to police and fire. All right. So what's that look? How do you get $600,000 out of that 6%? Well, if I took a couple of random houses out of Carriage Trails, this one was on Dayflower, and if they had paid their property tax the way property tax normally are paid, they would have paid $250 toward police and fire or to the city. And I took this one on Blue Flag, and if they would have paid normal property tax, they would have paid $432 into the city's portion of that 6%. And if you take all the houses in Carriage Trails that are built, Carriage Trails 1, you add up their portion, it comes to around $600,000, give or take. Could be 500, could be 700,000, but in that range that the city would have had in order to pay for police and fire services if a TIF had not been made. Okay, so here's the rest of the truth that goes along with that. Okay, instead of that $600,000 going to police and fire, where did it go? Well, mostly it went to reducing the cost for the Carriage Trails developer. All right, so here's a slide I picked out for one of the agreements between DEC and the city. And in that particular agreement, you can see this TIF funding. They call it public infrastructure cost, but really what it was to help break out the lots inside there and pay for the interior roads and sewers that go on in the development. Well, in a normal development like Calamere Farms or Lexington Place, the developer has to pay all that cost themselves. All right. So this right here is a supplement that the city's giving in order to reduce the developer's cost. All right. And if you look at what this is, the city has over the past 15 or 20 years or so given $30 million that are usually paid by the developer. And most of the $600,000 that would have gone to police and fire is now going to pay off that $30 million. All right, why does it matter? Well, Carriage Trails 2 is on the way, and there are upcoming TIF and NCA decisions that will affect city finances for over 30 years. Okay, so I want to say that TIF and NCAs can be useful tools, and I'm not saying we don't ever use them because they can be useful tools. Why are they useful? Why do people want to use them? Well, you can trade one police dollar for four total infrastructure dollars. All right. It's up to four. Now, you don't get all the human services or all the library funds when you create the TIF, but you get a good portion of them. So basically, for every $200 in police and fire money that you give up, you get a total of $800 that you can use for infrastructure. The problem is today in Carriage Trails 1, we spend at least $650 of that $800 to pay off things that should have been developers' cost. All right, so that only leaves you like $150. So you're really trading $200 in police and fire services for $150 of infrastructure. All right, do we want to make that kind of a trade? So do we want to make that kind of trade? Well, I would make that trade to pay for the proposed elementary school. So Carriage Trails 2 does have a proposed elementary school that's inside of that development that the city is proposing that they pay as a good faith offering to Bethel schools because of all the extra people, all the extra students that would be going to the school. Normally that's a school cost, but I think that that's a good use of TIF dollars to help Bethel schools out. So I would create the TIF or the NCA in order to help pay for that elementary school. And even though the mayor tells you that you can't use the TIF dollars for police and fire, that's not exactly true. You can use it for police and fire infrastructure. And some of the police and fire infrastructure that I think is useful, Station 25, it's a premier city facility now. I would keep it that way, right? All right. And then updates to the 911 communications infrastructure. That's a useful infrastructure project that I would use TIF dollars for. And even tornado sirens. People like the tornado sirens that we have down here in the south. You can continue that up in the Carriage Trails area as well. But what I would not use what I would not trade as police and fire funds for is to pay for developers to build a park. And that is a cost. It's normally a development cost. And what really would annoy me, would be if the city continued to pay for interior streets and sewers in the Carriage Trails 2 development. All right, there's no way that I think that any dollar should be paid for interior streets and sewers in that development. So I put the slide up here because it's hard to figure out why Mayor Gore tells you only half the story, right? He only tells you half the story here in the TIF because he'll tell you that TIF doesn't affect the police when obviously it does affect the police, right? And also in this particular thing for Carriage Trails, the whole time they were trying to do annexation, he was telling you half the stuff that was going on there. I mean, you'll hear him say that, oh, the city was surprised that the developer wanted to do that. The city had nothing to do with it and didn't help them at all. Well, now I was mayor from 2014 to 2018, and I knew DEC wanted to acquire that property because they worked with the city to talk about whether they could be expanded and stuff like that. So it's not at all feasible that Mayor Gore is being upfront about what was going on with DEC and wanting to do Carriage Trails 2 and the annexation and all the stuff that goes along with it. All right, so who knows why Mayor Gore tells all these half-truths and stuff like that, but I think that kind of information is useful to citizens so that they know what kind of trade-offs that we're making what kind of trade-offs that I would make. So I did mention that the city had talked to DEC while I was mayor about annexation, and I'm not really planning on doing the annexation video at all uh, on here, so I'll add a couple words about that. I don't have a philosophical objection to annexation. So this hurts me a little bit with some people that are against the annexation under all circumstances. That's not really where I am. If things are good for the city, then I am for those things. And if annexation turned out to be good for the city, then I would be for it. Uh, in this particular case, you'll see I have posted a video often where the mayor talks about due diligence and them not ever getting the due diligence that they needed to make a decision on annexation. And they never did, because whenever you annex for a housing development, it always costs more money to the city than it would to provide those services. So the city went ahead and annexed this property uh, without the due diligence, because if they did it, they would know that it cost more. So I don't have a philosophical thing about annexation, but I definitely would not have been keen on the idea of voting for this annexation uh, as it is. And now that it's done, even though the higher density you do uh, normally will give you more taxes in order to pay off for that development, if it's at all possible right now, I would try to do what could be done in order to make it so that any development that went up there equaled the density that Bethel was willing to give the developers when it was part of Bethel Township. Right. I think that was actually a better plan for that area, just because of the on and off of I-40, or not I-40, but Route 40 up there. There really isn't a good infrastructure to get that many people in and out of that area smoothly. So lower density would be much better for the residents in the long run than as if you had this big concentration of people in there, right there. So wasn't going to talk too much about annexation, but since I did mention that it was discussed when I was mayor, I thought I would add that a little bit in there. So where are we now with that? What did I? Oh, yeah. Again, I have no idea why Mayor Gore doesn't come out and tell you the full truth on any of these subjects out there. And it's not just these two. I just mentioned these two because they're kind of related to the decisions that have to be made with the new TIF and NCA for Carriage Trails 2. So where are we at? Oh, here's my plea, right? I understand the finances that go around there. There's nothing in there that shows that Mayor Gore understands them other than top level. All right. He doesn't seem to be able to grasp the finer details that would make a decision good or bad. Right. So I do have you say in there, write in Tom McMasters for Huber Heights Mayor. Thank you for watching episode 11. And like, comment, and share this preview, and tell your neighbors to do the same. I would go into more than just that right now. Right. So I see a lot of posts on there that talk about Tom McMasters didn't put in the effort to get on the ballot back in February, and therefore his candidacy should be dismissed. Well, quite frankly, I never intended to run for mayor. And in fact, I didn't expect to be doing all this effort in making videos and explaining to people exactly what it is that is going on in the city with the finances, like I did with this video. I mean, I heard a lot of people say, why are things uncontested. Why don't we ever get anybody running? I had asked a few people that I thought would be good candidates for mayor and other council positions to run, uh, and I would have supported them and actually probably committed to putting in much more effort than what I thought I was going to do when I decided to get on the ballot. Right. So, my intention was to get on the ballot, let people vote for me if they knew me, because quite frankly, we did a lot better stuff from 2014 to 2018 than what we're seeing now. And anybody that knows the city would know that. But besides that, I just thought that, hey, if the reputation was good enough, because there are enough people in the city that know how good we had it then compared to what's going on now and the well, whatever, what's going on now, uh, I might get elected, or at least, show the mayor that he needs to think a little bit more deeply than what you see him display now, right? And that was really the objective that I had on here, right? If enough people paid attention to what I was saying, conveyed it to the mayor, he would think a little bit more deeply about what's going on, and then we would have better decisions and better uh, processes in place that would make some of these projects a lot more successful than what you're seeing now. So I get kind of frustrated. I actually got frustrated early when I posted the video about Rural King, which is the only point about that video was the mayor and I see things differently about the mess or what he calls the mess in Rural King's parking lot. And he comes out and his initial reaction is to just call me a liar. Right? It gets annoying to hear, oh, Tom's lying, when I give all this good advice. Right? Not only that, you look at that video and tell me what in there was a lie. Right? Any of these things right here. His only reaction is, please don't listen to Tom, because if you do, you will realize that he's made a mistake. Right? So it's please don't, and if it's please don't listen to Tom, that's fine. That's not what he says. He says Tom's a liar. All right. What? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the facts are the facts, and he has to make sure that nobody hears the facts, or you will understand that most of the things he says are half truths that hurt the decisions that the city is making. So, with that, I don't take campaign contributions, monetary campaign contributions. But if we are going to improve the city, you have to get on Facebook and say, people should listen to Tom. You have to tell your friends on Twitter, tell your friends on Instagram, people should listen to Tom. Tell your neighbors, right? I'm a write-in candidate, not spending any money. I'm not going to get elected. But we can help this city make better decisions if people understand what's going on. So appreciate any help you have as we go through this last week toward the election. Thank you very much. And write in Tom McMasters for mayor. Be one of 300, maybe, hopefully at least 300. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, I do have to say, though, that even though I wasn't planning on doing a lot of work to get elected, I understand the responsibility that I will have once I am elected, and do commit to doing all the work that is required to be a successful mayor. Thank you.